Hello, everybody. Welcome to Planet FPL, the world where everything revolves around Fantasy Premier League. My name's Suj.
And my name is James.
I'm just checking to remind myself which game week has not finished, but we are in the middle of. I'm losing track of the numbers, but 11. Yeah, it's game week 11. 8 games so far, 1 postponed, 1 tonight. But we can go through the other 8 and see where we're at. See what's cooking.
We decided to go early because it's only the one Monday night football game, and we didn't think we'd have a lot of ownership in the game.
It's not true. Basically, I thought we should go tomorrow, but James said that Southampton and Brighton are irrelevant, and that all the fans of those clubs are,
That's definitely not true.
Yeah, I'll
but
try and stitch
obviously, since then, I've now landed with Che Adams in my team, and I'm going to have Cole Walker-Peters coming off the bench tonight. So I've still got 2 to go. But we've got FPL Gaffer on Clash of the Correspondents on Thursday, who's our Southampton correspondent. And we've got FPL Seagull, our Brighton correspondent, on Clash of Correspondents next Tuesday as well. So there'll be plenty of detail coming up Brighton, Southampton as well in any case. So we thought it'd be better just to get this out as early as possible for you this week.
Indeed. Tell everybody how your game week hasn't been going.
I've got 131 points. Is that any good?
Wrong show, wrong day.
Oh, sorry about that. Right, FPL we talking, are we? I am on 60 minus 4. That's not true. I'm on 68 minus 4 because I've got Thomas Souček definitely coming in for Jack Grealish, who I'd obviously busting the team, as I already said. I've got Cole Walker-Peters coming in for Foden. It's a little bit of an odd one. I've had a very small green arrow, and I keep having very small green arrows. I've had every player return for me so far, except the fucking player I took a minus 4 for.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Which was Sam Johnson. Yeah, obviously that gamble's not worked out. And it looks like part of the thinking was, I'll play him against Newcastle as well. I've obviously got him in to complement Martinez rather than instead of. And the reason it definitely wasn't going to be an instead of was just in case Newcastle West Brom's postponed. And at time of recording, which is early Monday afternoon, it looks like that game is in doubt and it may well be off. So obviously, look,
it's really hard to be mad with an 11-year-old, isn't it, James?
Oh, Harrison. Harrison, I'm not going to dig Harrison out the way his team played in that second half yesterday as well. Poor little fella. But listen, I knew he'd say yes, and I'd kind of already decided I was going to buy him anyway.
You're going to do it. Well. Yeah,
so,
of course.
Yeah, look, I went for the upside of it in terms of if it's a double pointer, I'm going to make a 6-point profit. I kind of worked out that probably worst case scenario was a 1 pointer, so I'd be 3 points down. Worst case scenario happened to be a 0, so I'm 4 points down. But every other player returned. Nico Williams, 5-pointer. Nice.
Yeah, I felt so glad that you finally got points off him before you sell him for Trent.
Listen, it's always nice to get a return off a 3.90, right? Andy Robertson, clean sheet, 6-pointer, which could have been way more. Ruben Diaz, 6-pointer. He also could have scored. Bruno was captain, which looked a horrendous decision at 5:30 when the team come out. More on that later. Sonny and Kane.
It still looked a horrendous decision at 6 o'clock, give or take 6:30, mate, as well.
Not really, because I knew at that point it was definitely coming on because of our shit.
Yeah, it was a point at least.
And Dominic Calvert-Lewin goal as well. So I've still got Che Adams and Cole Walker-Peters to go tonight. 68 minus 4. It's all right. I can't grumble at that. It could turn out being 80-odd points or so if it goes well for me tonight, right?
That's true. At the same time, looking at it right now, I mean, your game week ranks at 3.1 million.
That looks worse than it is because it doesn't include the Souček points, right?
Yeah, of course. But even then, you might go up to 2.5, 2. So it's basically, this was a week that you had to do well because so many people have scored amazing totals at the moment. I'm similar to you, but there's kind of a small difference between us in that 10 of my 11 players have played. I've got Che Adams to go tonight, and 8 of my 10 have returned as well. There's only 2 that haven't. One is Aaron Ramsdale. I mean, he ain't returned at all this year, so that was a given. And Stuart Dallas didn't return either, but all the others did. I had 3 players go into double digits, unlike you, who only had the 2. And obviously, De Bruyne captain was De Bruyne
good
captain
too, though,
at 28 points, right? So Son and Kane and De Bruyne, Bruno Fernandes, Souček, who I started, Reece James, Andy Robertson, And then I actually took a -4 this week. I downgraded Barkley to Bissouma to give me enough money to turn Tyrick Mitchell into Cancelo. I decided that I'm going to go with Cancelo over Diaz. I've been saying I think he's the better pick this week. Net. It was what it was. So had I not taken the -4, I would have had to play Soufal for a 1-pointer. So I'm up 5. So I'm up a point, which is better than nothing. And I'm set with Cancelo for the West Brom game in a couple of weeks' time as well. I don't think City will keep a clean sheet against United, so it is what it is. But
I don't think Cancelo will play against West Brom.
Well, yeah. Oh, are you predicting the City lineup? Are you? Is that a new side?
Do you know what I got on my stream on Saturday? I got the attacking 6 spot on. I only got the fullbacks wrong.
Oh, well, so 2 out of 11.
Yeah, I got the fullbacks wrong, so he'll probably play.
Yeah, so I've done all right. 86 -4, 82. The game week rank is 121k at the moment, which is decent. I'm at 1.2 million. If Che Adams does well tonight,
what score you want?
Meaning 86 -4,
fucking hell, what
82
mate.
points. Yeah. I should be really happy, right? I'll be honest with you. Since Saturday evening, I've not been able to shake the disappointment of the football match I went to see. I can't even tweet about it. I wanted to put something out on Twitter about the match, but I just can't bring myself to get over the disappointment of the weekend. But yeah, FPL-wise, I'm doing very well. Sky, I'm well into the hundreds as well. I'm not as high as you, 108, but I didn't buy Salah yesterday for specific reasons. So that equates for quite a few points. I've had a good week from a fantasy point of view. Not bad at all.
Still top of the league here, boy.
Yeah, just on goal fantasy still, football, right? Mate. Yeah. We're going to run down the games as we do. Of course, we'll give a look at fantasy assets that we may or may not be considering for this week. Again, it's a Friday deadline with West Ham Leeds this Friday, so quick turnaround for most people. Literally, you're going to be making your decisions in the next 3 days.
I won't be making any till Thursday, Friday.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of the talk at the moment, just before we get into the game, is obviously about these premium players. So for me, obviously captain Bruno this week, it felt like I picked the worst premium of all the possibles. You've got Kane going off, Son going off, De Bruyne, Sterling, Salah. They've all gone off, right? Even to Jamie Vardy, you can even say as well, right? They've all gone off. So that's the big discussion, and it just shows everybody flip-flopped over the weekend. It's like, right, so I've got to get De Bruyne, Sterling. Then by Saturday night, it was like, Bruno, this, that, and that. Yesterday, how can I get Kane and Son back? I've been wrong. Fuck the fixtures. They're too good. Last night, look at Mo Salah, even against Wolves, the sort of team you don't expect that against, although that's the second time they've lost 4-0 this season, ironically.
Yeah, so, I remember the first, James.
Yeah, I know you do, mate. Yeah. Salah is the freshest one in your mind, right? And he's going to be the one that's going to be majorly captained this week. Have you got a direct route to him?
I'm not buying him. Even if I had one, I'm not going to Salah this weekend.
I think I'm not either, which I don't know if that's mad or because this week he's definitely going to be the most captained. I could get him in straight for Bruno, and I just look at it and I go, in the midweek, I'm going to want to reverse that straight back. And I've still got like Phil Foden sitting in the team and stuff, and I want to get rid. So it might be that I'm not going to do it either, possibly.
Yeah,
it's an interesting one about premium. Should you be jumping on and off these guys? The problem with the jumping on and off is you keep losing out on the value that you're building on these guys, right? That's one of the real issues. You look, I don't want Kane and Son next week away to Liverpool. No, you probably don't. But as it stands, Tottenham are as likely to go to Anfield and win as anybody.
Yeah. Next week, Harry Kane is quite possibly, this coming game week, I should say, is possibly going to be my captain against
that's probably the default for me as well, sticking on Harry.
Yeah, I just don't see that chopping around. You say don't move early. Ironically, my transfer this week involves 2 players that might not be, well, they're definitely not in European action. So I might not be the best transfer to make, but I'm thinking of going from Antonio to Bamford before the Friday night game. You know what will happen because Leeds are playing West Ham. Bamford or blank Antonio will miraculously come off his deathbed and score 2 goals. But I think for between now and game week 16, Leeds' fixtures are good, and I can't be carrying Antonio anymore. So I think I'm going to be making that move. Neither of those 2 are playing in Europe. So if I see a price swing, I'll make that move. Otherwise, I'm going to leave it till Friday. But I'm not hopping around the premiums, James. I don't see the upside or the value for me in doing that. I'm quite comfortable with my squad as it is.
Everyone wants Salah. Everyone wants De Bruyne. Everyone wants Bruno. Everyone wants Harry and Son. Right? It's not possible to have all five. And there's others we haven't mentioned there, like Raheem Sterling. Even, we'll talk about it tomorrow, but Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, home to Burnley this week. He's not going to get a mention. But even if you look at
Werner looks like the player that's continuously going to look like he's going to get a hat trick and then only comes away with an assist or something or nothing.
Oh, he's going to
do that all season.
He's going to have weeks where he goes off, Timo Werner. But in terms of the fixtures, he doesn't appeal. I mean, if you look at Arsenal's next three, right? Burnley at home. Aubameyang's got a good record against them. They could go off. Burnley, if they concede early in these games, can get done over. Southampton at home looks tougher in midweek for them. But you've got the in behind Southampton's high line. And then the following week's Everton away, which again looks tough on paper, but they've conceded 2 goals or more in every home game.
For weeks, yeah.
Right? So, I don't know. That would be the major play and pump, wouldn't it? But Aubameyang this week, no statistician is going to tell you that you should go for Aubameyang at the moment. I just feel...
no sane person will be telling you to go for Aubameyang this game week either.
The way I look at it and go, if I was to go Bruno to Salah, which I don't really want to do, the other way to remove it is I'll probably remove Kane, right? And then just settle and go, right, I'm going 3 in midfield, like Son, Fernandes and Salah, something like that, which if I bring Kane down, I've got enough in the bank that I could go Foden to Salah. That's probably more likely. But I'd look at it and go, that's another -4. And is there any guarantee that it even starts on Sunday? Because the one thing of caution on Liverpool this weekend is they play Sunday afternoon at Fulham. Now, admittedly, because they've already qualified and won the Champions League group, presumably none of them are going to Germany where they're playing to play Midtjylland in the Champions League. They've then got Tottenham on the Wednesday and then the one Klopp hates, right? 12:30 on the Saturday against Palace.
Yep.
So the big hitters are all going to play against Tottenham, right? That seems fairly obvious. Are they going to play the Fulham and Palace games as well? If you wanted to give Salah a rest...
Who knows?
I'm just saying, if you want to give Salah a rest, is it possibly the Fulham game?
Fulham game is the most likely that they would give him a rest.
I would look at it and go, it's 3 games over a tight period inside basically 6 days. But they've got the midweek free now. And obviously, because they're not in the Carabao Cup quarterfinals, they've got the midweek free afterwards as well. So they even Salah probably does play all 3 games. But how sick would I be if I take that -1 and doesn't even play? And then he's playing Tottenham. I don't fancy that so much. Or am I then in the same nagging doubt? If he does play against Fulham and Tottenham, am I suddenly thinking, shit, does he play against Palace? Is that another problem? So it's not as straightforward as it looks. He's definitely the best choice, don't get me wrong. And I think 90% he does start. But the way Klopp's been going on, presumably he's going to rotate over the 3 games in some departments. He's not going to pick the same team for all 3 games. No way.
Are you from the conversation and things you're saying, you are quite looking into rotation as part of the decision-making process, whether to get a player or not. I don't give a toss. Like, honestly, I'm like...
But toss when I buy a player, though.
Yeah, true. But if with the premiums, if it happens, it happens if they're going to get benched. Because they could just as easily come off the bench and cause devastation. I mean, Bruno to come off with 6 points from the bench, right? So if Salah's benched against Fulham keep it tight for 60 minutes. Salah comes on for the last 30.
He can still do the damage. Of course.
So with the premiums, that's why even with Cancelo, I took the same route with Reece James. I was like, you know what, I'm going to play him week in, week out. And if he does play, he does. And if he doesn't, he doesn't. And I've been blessed that he's been consistently in the team. But if he misses out next week, so be it. It's what your bench is for. I really don't like to second guess on rotation because how many times do we get it wrong? As many times as we get it right. So if I want a player and I think he's going to return, I'll buy him. And I rarely buy players, to be honest with you, just for 2 game weeks and then know I'm going to move off. So maybe that's the other difference as well. It's like if you're going to buy him short term and you're thinking of moving off, then you definitely need him to play. Otherwise, it's a really bad gamble. But I'm really not looking at rotation in terms of the moves I'm making anyway. And people like you and me who are trying to get to game week 16 for this wild card as well, slightly different thinking. You're just counting 5 game weeks at a time now, then 4 game weeks, then 3 game weeks, you know?
Well, yeah, anyone I buy now is for 4 games. I mean, you're looking at it slightly differently for captaincy. I'm not saying I won't buy Mo Salah. What I'm saying is I won't be making a decision till Thursday or Friday.
Well, we're talking about rotation and issues around that. I've got to give a quick shout out to my mate Andy Stevenson, right? Steve-O, you're getting a shout on the pod because he's in a mini league that I'm in, James. The Norwich County Council or Norfolk County Council mini league. So Steve-O had Martinez, Grealish, and Watkins playing this weekend.
I bet he's got
he found a solution to his problem of the three guys not playing.
Callum Wilson.
No, he played his fucking bench boost.
What?
Just think about it. Just think about it.
Sorry.
I messaged the guys like, they're going to come off your bench anyway, mate. What have you done? So then
he thought that they... well, he doesn't know how to make a substitution.
And here's the ironic thing, Jay. So I messaged the guy and I said, you need to learn how FPL rules work, mate. And he said that he actually hit the bench boost by mistake and then couldn't not play his bench boost. He clicked on it.
I would have been taking a -8, mate. I couldn't bear that.
Devastation. There we go.
Bad
Let's
times.
talk about some of these games, shall we? Starting with Burnley 1, Everton 1.
Yeah, interesting from Everton's system setup because it kind of wasn't acknowledged until Delph went off injured, but I think Everton kind of did go back to a back four, and obviously it ended up with Godfrey playing left back. I mean, he's become very makeshift in terms of how they're trying to play at the moment. I want to talk about DCL because I think he's a player.
He keeps returning.
Yeah, I mean, it's just top goal scorer in the league, which seems to keep getting forgotten amongst a range of stuff where people are returning all over the place. He's got 11 goals in 11 games. It's incredibly impressive. A lot of the goals are obviously similar, which is really interesting. Actually, got a hat-trick against you in the League Cup as well, I think, if I'm right in saying. Yeah,
he did.
He's doing great, right? And I think a lot of us have been in this process of thinking, want to get rid. I spoke a couple of weeks ago and said, after Burnley, I think there'll be a little bit of an exodus. But obviously, he's not the sort of person you're coming off unless you're downgrading to obviously fit in I don't know if you want to get from Bruno to Salah or something. He is, in terms of movement, and we'll talk about Giroud in a bit as well. Considering he's still a young boy, what is he, 22, 23?
21, 22, something like that.
His movement in the box is exceptional. Do you know what? He does the same thing all the time. He gets in between the two centre halves. It's as simple as that. That's all he does. And his timing in terms of when to attack the 6-yard box is impeccable. All of the goals have been in the box. I think 6 of his goals have actually been from inside the 6-yard box. The concern with him is a lot of them are coming from balls down the left-hand side, where ordinarily you'd have Luca Dean's delivery. I mean, Dean's assisted a few for him this year, and obviously he's out till the new year. But obviously the bonus is Richarlison's back, and you can see what Richarlison can do as per the assist at the weekend. Face someone up, take one on the outside, drill it in, and he's going to be there. Calvert-Lewin is never not going to be there when that ball comes in, which is a couple of points to this. One, the fixtures don't matter so much. If the ball is right, it will score goals. So it's all about the delivery. The concern for this particular weekend coming up is Richarlison will play against Reece James. I know you've already mentioned Reece James and kind of sacrificing a few weeks ago and said, look, if he gets rotated, he gets rotated. And no doubt over this Christmas period, he will at some point. But generally speaking, he ain't getting dropped out of that team. Like Reece James.
No, he's first choice now. I think if we look at it, we were talking about the likes of Azpilicueta and Alonso and stuff. Their days are gone now. I think you can really say they're back up.
First choice, I'd go as far as to say he's the best right back in the league now, even ahead of Trent. In terms of the all-round package, the way he defends and everything, just doesn't get beat. He's got the physicality, the brilliant delivery on the end as well. So Richarlison's going to have a tough time. Now, James, I might be wrong here, but I don't think he's assisted a goal for Calvert-Lewin. With James, he's coming back onto a left foot, and he likes to spread the ball to Richarlison. So in terms of productivity of what you can expect for Richarlison this coming weekend particularly, it might be quite difficult. You might also find the week after when they play at Leicester, playing against the back three, we assume it might be. That run in between two centre-halves becomes a little bit more difficult as well. That said, I'm in no rush to sell the fella. What brilliant consistency. He's, 8 million now or so. I don't think he's
what price did you pick him up at, James?
I bought him late at like 7.7. But
Okay.
I'd still feel like for those who bought at 7, probably just sit it out, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
What's the point in selling?
No. Unless you needed to find money, because you do have Bamford for 6.1. You've got Che Adams is at 6, and so on. Watkins. If you really needed to find $1.5 million to get Salah or whatever, I'm sure you could downgrade. But I don't think necessarily it's the right decision.
It's a much easier sell for someone like me who bought a lot later on, and I may still do that. It might be that, I mean, that extra money down to Bamford, for example, would actually allow me to go Nico Williams to Trent, for example. So, and people know how I feel about Trent from an FPL perspective. So I'm not saying that I won't sell him. I don't expect returns from him this weekend, is what I'd probably say. But he's still a brilliant asset. And the way it's going, he'll get in excess of 20 goals. I mean, he's already halfway there, isn't he? It's just interesting that a lot of people are thinking of removing the top goal scorer in the league who's returning at a goal a game.
Yeah,
a lot of the goals, it's worth saying, a lot of the goals obviously are against teams that you would expect him to return against. The likes of Brighton, the hat-trick against West Brom. I mean, it's worth saying he's also scored obviously headed goals against Tottenham and Liverpool this year. Both of them from Luka Dean assists, by the way. But one to ponder over. I don't think you'd be looking at anything else. Everton investment definitely wouldn't look at them defensively. Another one conceded by Jordan Pickford from outside the box. Although he was a little bit blindsided by this one. It was a good strike from Robbie Brady. But it's the most in the league. I mean, it's 5 now he has conceded from shots from outside the box. That's a concern. He just doesn't give them confidence defensively. For Burnley, tough little run coming up. And then it really eases for them, actually. For those who haven't used the wild card, they got Sheffield United and Fulham at home in game week 16 and 17. I spoke about this before and said you can probably bank them as 2 clean sheets now. You wouldn't be looking at buying now, even with, yes, it's Arsenal away yet next. You're not buying them at the moment. Big couple of games for them.
I mean, look, if you're looking at the table now, they're 4 points behind Brighton. So really the bottom 4 are getting slowly and surely cut adrift now with Fulham, Burnley, West Brom and Sheffield United. And like you mentioned, they do have a little bit of a tough run now. There's nobody from Burnley from an FPL point of view, regardless of how cheap they are, that's of any form of interest at the moment.
No, the only one I would say is, and again, people know price sensitive, I'm a fan of, is like if you need to downgrade and get a cheapie in at sort of 4.4 million value and bench for a few weeks with the view to using him over Christmas and that, Charlie Taylor's a great shot.
Charlie Taylor, yeah, definitely. And let's talk about City 2, Fulham 0. 2 straightforward victories in a row now for City with clean sheets in both. I mean, they should have scored more. They should have scored more in this game.
So one of the themes of my Saturday was missing goals. So I we obviously had to finish my stream earlier, went into Harry for a haircut, went round to my mum and dad's afterwards. Got round there just in time for kickoff. Dad ain't got it on. Sit the fucking game on. He looks at me like, Burnley, Everton. Really? I'm like, yeah, it's fucking work. Switch it on, right? Burnley are already winning, so I've missed the goal. So we leave after the Burnley game. Traffic's mental, right? Everybody's out buying something. None of this social distancing and stuff if you're in a car, mate. There's traffic everywhere on the roads at the moment. Unbelievable.
I had to go through a shopping centre, obviously, in the evening. And just while I mentioned that, and I know there's going to be listeners, because we've had a few questions saying, what was the experience of getting to the game and stuff like that? We will touch on it. Once we've been through the games, I'll give you a rundown on what the day was like, not just what the football was like. But yeah, so people are out and about in full force, mate, at the moment.
So to finish the story in terms of missing goals, I obviously saw De Bruyne put Sterling through. I was watching the game on my phone because we was driving home. And then there's this bit on the North Circular where it's like a dead spot near Coney Hatch Lane. This doesn't mean anything to 99.9% of the listeners. If you're stuck in the traffic lights, there's like a dead point. If you've got the radio on, the radio will die. So the phone dies. I've got nothing, right? Put it back on and I see the replay of De Bruyne scoring a penalty. I'm like, oh wow. Right, now I've got to get the old app up, haven't I, to see who's got the assist, etc. So we got home, and I'll be honest with you, I thought I haven't got De Bruyne, Sterling, Mahrez, none of it. I had De Bruyne captain in Sky, so I thought that's job done, no problem.
At least that's dealt with. Yep.
I thought, do you know what? Harry was tired. I'm going to go to sleep. There's nothing I'm going to learn from this game, from the way City play. And it's interesting because I woke up at 5 o'clock and obviously went to have a look at what the score was, and I couldn't believe that he'd finished 2-0. And I think if I'd have watched the rest of the game, having done so since, I still wouldn't have believed that it finished 2-0. I mean, De Bruyne could have put any sort of number on the board, honestly. And that's just the point. Which, Fernandes, De Bruyne, Salah, keep dancing between these guys. All of them could have done even better than they did at the weekend, particularly De Bruyne. Lucky Bruno Fernandes, who created 8 chances in one half of a football match, by the way. Yeah. Obviously, difficult game for them coming up this weekend at United, but they're very capable of winning it.
Yeah, I think it will be. I was going to touch a little bit more on that when we talk about the West Ham United game, because the style, the performance in the second half from Manchester United gave me cause that I think they will get some goals against Manchester City, or at least 1 or 2 goals. If you think back to the Spurs game just a couple of weeks ago, and obviously you will be able to remember that very easily, the way that you were able to counter on City and cause them problems. I think United have players in Rashford, if he's fit, and Greenwood, that really can get in behind. That second half against us, we'll talk about it. I mean, they've got players in Mata and Fernandes that have the ability to thread the ball through the eye of a needle. And they've got players like Rashford and Greenwood that have absolute devastating pace. So I think they'll be able to cause City some problems this weekend. The challenge is going to be getting the ball off City, because they just keep it so well.
United obviously had success in the fixture last year. They won 3 of 4 meetings, if you include the League Cup semi-final 2 legs. So United know that they can do them. I think the issue at the moment, unlike probably last year's games, is a little bit in terms of legs still in the midfield area. You don't want Bruno chasing around the thing. And I think to kind of complement that, what you end up with is the wide players end up going really deep, which might negate, obviously, Rashford's threat, particularly during the game, assuming if he plays on the left. But yeah, United can damage them. It's another game that City, I feel like they can ill afford to lose, because Liverpool are probably going to put further distance on the board again this weekend. So look, drawing at Manchester United, obviously in a derby, wouldn't be a disaster, but it's another one I don't think they'd want to lose. And the flip is, obviously, if United win it, suddenly, we've been laughing at Solskjaer, etc. They're in a title race, aren't they, if they win? Unbelievably.
No.
What do you think about Raheem Sterling at the moment?
The thing is, I own him in Sky, not in FPL. And I can't see any reason or justification to sell Raheem Sterling in that game. I don't own him in FPL, so it's a bit harder to comment. But just with the fixtures that they've got coming up, he will quietly and consistently just tick along. Raheem Sterling will. It's an expensive price at 11.4. So if I owned him in FPL, based on the pricing of the players, I would try and find a way to get him to Mo Salah. Downgrade someone somewhere to get to Mo Salah over Sterling. If I owned De Bruyne, if I didn't own De Bruyne, I think it's okay to hold Raheem Sterling.
It's okay, but I feel like all the premiums we're mentioning, he's the one that's not getting spoke of. Now, a lot of that might be because he's in around about 4% of teams, so there's less people thinking about him anyway. But I feel like he's the one. If you have taken that gamble recently, and perhaps you've captained him over the weekend and got the returns, he's, oddly enough, despite the fact he's gone off as well, he's probably the one you're thinking, do you know what? I can get rid of this, I think. Because you think he definitely plays at Man United, almost certainty, I think. Then does he play against West Brom? You think, I can't have him missing that, because if you own him for that, you probably want to captain him when you're hoping that he plays.
Yep.
So he's a really awkward one at the moment. And I guess to a certain extent, the same sort of applies to De Bruyne, where I wouldn't be buying this week, reassess after the weekend. De Bruyne, we know he's going to play the majority of the games. But could Guardiola look at it and go, it's United this weekend, Southampton the weekend after, which we know is likely to be quite an intense game. Can he get through West Brom without the likes of De Bruyne and Sterling? The answer is probably yes, by the way. So those two are definite, probably non-buyers this week. I think that's fairly obvious because of the fixture anyway. What would you feel about?
I don't think I would buy either. I think the only one I would consider buying, and that's if you are very sensitive on funds, is Kevin De Bruyne. Because I think he's reminded us again in the last 2 weeks. I mean, I've captained him 2 weeks in a row. That's 48 points. It's a hell of a lot.
You could captain him again this weekend.
Do you know, interestingly, I'd almost rather captain Fernandes than captain Kevin De Bruyne. But
that's interesting.
For consistency, the challenge that both the Manchester clubs have, and City in this case, is that Spurs and Liverpool look quite relentless. There's just no ability for these guys to have any slip-ups. Otherwise, they're going to start falling behind. So when you get the fixtures like West Brom and what have you, I think City are going to have to field a strong team. At least I think there'd be more of the mindset of let's play him for 60 minutes, get 2 or 3 up, and then take him off. Because the Champions League is dealt with now. So the midweek fixtures next week do cause that little bit of congestion that they may want to rotate a little bit. But I think they need to get the job done more than they need to preserve the legs of the players at the moment.
Oh, they picked their strongest team at United. That's not in question. I just think, like, particularly West Brom being midweek as well, I mean, you really would be guessing at the lineup. Would you play City defensive assets at United this weekend? Like, you've got Cancelo and that. You just said you think United will score most likely in the game.
Yeah, I think United will score, but Cancelo's, for me, is 50-50 in terms of attacking and defensive. So I would probably play him. We've talked about never rest premium defenders like Trent and Robbo that we did, so.
I don't know if he quite falls into the line like of Trent and Robbo,
no,
for
he
example. I don't think he does. And the interesting thing is there might be a few others in this position who've got, say, like what I've got. Cole Walker-Peters at home to Sheffield United this week, and Luke Ayling or Stuart Dallas at home to West Ham, and you think that's better than Diaz or Cancelo away to United, isn't it?
Yeah, I've got Tufo and Dallas playing each other. So, I mean, Reece James will play against Everton and Robbo will play against Fulham. So my 2 other defenders is Dallas and Tufo against each other. So I think I will be playing Cancelo this weekend.
I think I'll probably end up playing Diaz as well, most likely. But it's an interesting call. I mean, you might find there's a lot of teams this weekend that might not have City coverage. Oddly enough, when this time last week, it was like the desperation to get them because it's Fulham, as it obviously is now with Mo Salah particularly. Fulham, though, interestingly, similar system to what they played at Leicester. Certainly in personnel, although Cordova-Reid played a lot deeper, almost like a fullback, basically. But then City can pin you in to an extent that it becomes difficult to tell if it's intended as wing-backs or outright fullbacks in a 5. But, you know, a bit better, right? They lost 2-0. Admittedly, they could have lost by more, but I don't think that I don't feel like with them they're in fold mode like we kind of all thought about them back to game week 3-4, like they are going to get battered all the time. Just won at Leicester. They've just lost 2-0 at Man City. It's a good week. If I'd have offered any Fulham fan before that, they'd have taken it. And interestingly, after Liverpool, a couple of nice fixtures for them, actually. It might bring people like Lookman and Caballero to the table. I wouldn't rule out buying Lookman this week, honestly, to shove on the funds from Foden and then move it elsewhere, if that's what I decide is my plan.
Yeah, I think Lookman's a decent shout as well. I decided in the end with the move away from Ross Barkley to just go as cheap as I possibly could. But Lookman was definitely in my thoughts. Fulham, I feel like, of the sides at the bottom, Fulham will get out of it through playing good football. Whereas Burnley and West Brom...
Good football might send them down, by the way.
That's true as well. But Burnley and West Brom, for example, might shithouse their way to points and get themselves out of it. Fulham will do it through, actually, you know what? They'll play good football and deserve to get out of it. I don't think that hope is lost for them at all. I think they're still going to provide a threat.
If Fulham stay up, it'll be because they score more goals than the other 3. That's the first thing they have to do, because actually they are capable of scoring more goals than the bottom 3 at the moment.
So West Ham 1, Manchester United 3. You got to watch the game as well, obviously, James. I've got my thoughts having been there. But firstly, watching football live again was a bit of a weird, surreal experience. Obviously, under the floodlights, it almost felt like I was watching the game on TV, but in front of my eyes. I had to think for a second, because now we watch TV, you get so many different angles, and then you've got... I'm used to streaming football, right? So I'll have my phone with an app or whatever, and it would tell me that, illegally, if goals have gone in or whatever. So I had to, for a moment, I was pinching myself. I was like, I'm actually getting this real time. It's not like there's any 5-second delay, 10-second delay. I'm seeing it quicker than anyone else is going to see it. And there was a moment in the first half where I was like, it takes a bit of an adjustment to think I'm actually in the moment. Like I'm shouting at Pablo Fornals and he's fucking 20 meters away.
You lie, 20 meters.
He was 20 meters away, mate. So, I mean, if this was a game of 2 halves, it was amazingly a game of 2 halves. You
should have scored right at the start of the second half, mate.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I'm gutted we came away with this game with nothing.
You should
Absolutely
do.
gutted.
You should feel exactly the opposite of how you felt last Monday or last Tuesday morning.
Yeah, that was robbery. But here, I mean, we went into. I felt at half time that we were going to get made to pay for not taking the chances that we should have. But from the start, we came out of the blocks, pressed them high. Fornals was running. He was giving Wan-Bissaka all sorts of problems. No time on the ball. That first half, we defended really well. Rice was everywhere, bossing the midfield.
I thought Bowen was such a threat.
Well. Oh, he picked the ball up and he was direct.
Yeah.
And part of me was worried that are we going to blow out of steam, because with the fans and everything, we've kind of really gone for it. The players have really put in a shift in the first half. Are they going to burn out? But I thought, you know what, if we carry on like this, thank you, David Moyes, for finally giving me a team that I can rely on to defend properly, because United had very few chances in the first half. I thought Cavani was quiet and he ended up drifting out wide and coming deep. Martial was non-existent. Mason Greenwood didn't have a good first half, and they had no one to create anything. So I thought, more of this, please, and we'll be fine. We'll be able to see the game out. Second half, it changed. It changed.
Why did it change?
Simple. They Rashford's pace and then Bruno Fernandes and Greenwood's ability to put a ball through was something else. I mean, they scored 3 goals. They had a number of really good chances that they didn't take as well. They could have scored 5 or 6. But Rashford's pace in behind, I hadn't seen him up close like that for a while, and he's really good. Rashford is a very, very good footballer. And if there's one thing I can tell you about Agbona, Balbuena, and Aaron Creswell, they ain't got pace, mate. So you put in a ball in behind and a foot race against Marcus Rashford, he's going to beat them more times than not, and so is Mason Greenwood. So when Bruno came on and Rashford came on, they had finally the ability to stretch us at the back, and then Bruno could put the through ball through. I mean, Mata's through ball for Rashford's goal. That was a fantastic through ball. And we didn't have the pace to defend it properly. So in the end, ended up leaking goals. And we need a better goal scorer at West Ham. It's one of the things why I think United, when I look at City and what you guys were able to do to City on the counter, if United tactically set up it in a way that allows them to get Rashford running in behind their fullbacks and what have you, I think they can cause City some problems next week.
Do you think they can defend as well as Tottenham did, though?
No. Manchester United are not top 4 this year. You said something to me before the game. You said, I hope you win because I see them as genuine top 4 contenders. They're not good enough defensively, James. We talk about Arsenal. If we finish below Arsenal this season in the league, I'll have said we've had a bad season. That's how ropey I think they are. But United defensively are not. We cause them so many problems. Tellez offensively is half decent, but I don't think that he's that good defensively. And I think you can get at Lindelof. You can get a Maguire. Henderson had a good game. But all in all, ultimately, did the ball go out of play?
Oh, here we go. Yes, it did, to be fair.
Well,
yes, it did.
So
we factually know that now.
Well, what are you
VAR,
basing on what the BBC did?
Don't forget, it's VAR that has to get decisions right to the finest centimetre. Yeah, you could have got about 2 footballs in between the space that it was out of the pitch.
It felt like the linesman didn't look at it, and then so he didn't know. He hadn't done his job, basically. Because there was no conclusive video evidence, I thought we'd get away with not making a decision on this.
I got sympathy with the linesman, to be honest, because I'll tell you why as well.
Up, mate.
Yeah, well, no, that's the thing. So everyone said, he should have looked at it. I don't know how it went so high. I don't know how he could have looked at it and looked at the line at the same time. He would have had to physically turn his body to put one leg on the pitch and stand like Cristiano Ronaldo taking a free kick to have been 100% certain. So I can understand why he couldn't do it. What I would say is, I think for anybody who watched it, just literally from where it left Henderson's boot, the way the ball travelled and where it landed.
And it landed about 1 foot inside.
From where it started, from where it started, where it left Henderson and where it landed was basically a straight line. But we could all see that the ball did not go in a straight line.
Yeah.
So common sense would have said it went out. But yeah, listen.
But ultimately, look, I think that if you look back at it, we should have taken our chance in the first half. We didn't.
Of course.
United
in this league,
were clinical in the second. I still think, I mean, Bruno Fernandes, anytime, any place. I think Rashford looked like a real threat. I almost think he'll play up top ahead of Martial now, for example. Um, he just looked a
Well,
real
Greenwood went
threat.
and played there, really, didn't he?
Yeah, Greenwood.
Wow, he took
Greenwood
his goal well.
took his goal well.
What a
He
goal.
fluffed a number of chances
Yeah.
though. For someone with his ability to finish, I mean, he could have been devastating. It was an enjoyable game that I just think, you know what, we're making progress as a side as West Ham. So there's clubs that will play in the coming weeks that are not as good as Manchester United, and we'll be able to see that game out. But we do need to address this lack of pace at the back, and we do need to address this clinical. Are we going to finish or are we not? Suchek, anytime, any place. The guys obviously picked up a good 8-pointer here. Yeah, Suchek, I'm probably going to play him most weeks now that Bissouma's my fifth midfielder.
The
And
beauty
with
of
Manchester
that,
United,
the beauty of that goal in a game like that, and with Leeds and Palace to come, and it's not a slight on either of those two, but just from a fixture perspective, we'll probably get the value back on Suchek. And it's kind of what I always said weeks ago, was he's one I'm always happy to let the price go. He'll come back at some stage because he's going to get goals. So whether I start him this week or not is different matter. I guess, look, I had him as first sub with Jack Grealish busting the team. So my intention was, yes, I'm starting him this week. But if Newcastle and Villa had happened this week, I wouldn't have played Suchek. But it'd have come in for Foden, so I'd have been all right either way, mate. Yeah, listen, you were great in the first half, mate. Great. I thought Haller played okay. We haven't spoken about Haller's miss as well, right? Fucking hell, mate.
It was in front of me. All the goals were at the end that I scored. You know, the interesting thing, when Bowen put the ball in the back of the net and it was offside, I knew it was offside because it was literally my eyesight, but I still cheered as loud as I could just because I could. I just felt like I'm in the stadium, the ball's gone in the back of the net. I'm going to shout really, really
even
fucking
though you knew
loud,
it was off.
But I knew it was offside. But I was going to cheer anyway just because I could.
I mean, Haller was off as well. And continuing the theme of obviously me missing goals, sure enough, Harry was not happy about me watching this game on the telly. 2 of the goals I missed because I was watching it on the iPad and he wants to snatch the iPad out of my hand. So, of course, I've gone, well, do you know what? Fine, you can have that. I'm putting the football back on the TV. And twice I put it on the TV and there's been goals.
Set off as well.
No, because the TV's a minute ahead of the iPad, isn't it?
Wow.
I've come on and Suchek celebrating and also for Greenwood's goal as well. So, yeah, I watched a lot of football at the weekend. Didn't see as many goals as everybody else.
Yeah. I think if you've got United defensively, I don't know why. If you've got attacking options, I mean, most of us are getting onto Bruno Fernandes. I think Rashford's the second best there.
Bruno Fernandes. Go on, say about Pogba. Because I did want to ask you about
Pogba's going to get a little bit of interest because he's returned a 10-pointer.
Nah, how did you think he played, though?
No. Danny Mills gave him, was it Danny Murphy on Match of the Day? Yeah, Danny Murphy was giving
He was raving about him. I didn't agree either.
I didn't agree at all. I thought he was bang average. In the first half, Rice had the run of him. We didn't give him any space. His goal was fantastic. And in the second half, when we sat a bit deeper, he had a little bit more freedom on the ball. Sure, he looked a bit better. But nah, that was not Pogba at his finest. No way.
Bruno Fernandes, 36 goal involvements in his 38 games since joining the club, 22 goals and 14 assists. It's mega.
I can't see why I would sell this guy.
He hasn't blanked yet from an FPL perspective in an away game since joining the club.
Phenomenal.
The fuck?
Phenomenal. Very good football player.
I think that's right. Yeah. I think it's since joining the club. It's definitely this season anyway. They've won all 5 away games and been losing all of them.
And yeah, it's interesting. I still think defensively they're not going to be good enough to get top 4. I mean, you look at the form of yourselves, Chelsea, City, and Liverpool. That I think the top 4 is done. United will certainly be 5th.
Manchester United are very much in the race for top 4. Let me tell you, honestly, because they've got too many good attacking players.
I don't think they'll be able to defend well enough, James.
They're definitely in the race for top 4. 100% in the race for top 4.
This weekend will be a very good test.
But I agree that they're not title challengers. But for top 4, yeah, they're in with a good shot.
Talking of title challengers, Chelsea 3, Leeds 1. They came good in the end.
I thought Chelsea were great. Really, really good. We have to, by the way, give Frank Lampard some credit. For two reasons. One, you've seen the damage of what Tottenham will do on the counter-attack. And I told you he was cautious and he was worried last week. And you look at the time and go, oh, they could have done more. But I think that's why. I think he wasn't too bothered about a draw either against Tottenham. And this is as good as anyone's played against Leeds. Yes, you could say Leeds and to a lesser extent, obviously Palace did bits on the counter-attack against them. But Chelsea dominated this game throughout. Leeds obviously had chance. I mean, you think of Rafinha's chance where it was blocked and then he put the rebound over. He obviously went ahead in the game. Bamford, he's going to get chances in every game. I've told you this. But on the overall of the game, the scoreline was the least that Chelsea deserved. Really, really good. Mount and particularly N'Golo Kante in midfield, brilliant. They've lost Ziyech, we think, for a while now through injury. But now Pulisic's back. Havertz is back. Thiago Silva looks world class at the back, which is a good recovery from his awful debut at West Brom. He looks fit now. He's got everything. It's all in his head. He's a very, very good defender. The two fullbacks are excellent. Goalie's obviously good. Zuma's playing well.
Scoring goals, 4 goals in 11 games. He scored 5 in the whole of last season.
They are in a title race. They are
no
in a
doubt
title
about
race.
it. They're very consistent at the moment as well. So really a big fan of what's going on at Chelsea. Reece James for me has just become a fantastic little asset from a Premier League point of view.
Yeah, very reasonable for anybody to buy, particularly Reece James, in my opinion, irrespective of fixtures. And obviously at the moment, in terms of, we kind of spoke about Calvert-Lewin and what his service might be like on that flank. I mean, who's going to play against Reece James? Is he going to play Iwobi there? Is he going to bring in Nkunku in the team? Is he going to play Godfrey at left back in the back four? I think whatever the solution is there, Reece James will probably have some joy. Doesn't mean he returns for you, but I think he'll get plenty of balls in the box on that. Giroud, by the way, is good for James, for Chilwell. What I wanted to speak about with Giroud was, I mean, Calvert-Lewin in terms of space in between centre halves is exceptional in terms of his timing, he attacks the run. Olivier Giroud, near post, best on the planet, mate. Genuinely, there's nobody better at making near post runs than him. And it's been like that for a very, very long time. You look at all Arsenal's problems. Fuck could they do with Giroud at the moment? Ain't no one going to convince me that Tammy Abraham is better for Chelsea than Olivier Giroud. And especially as well, you'll find all these other guys in and around it, like Pulisic, Giroud will be good. We saw that at the end of last season, that Giroud was great for Pulisic. So I think he's good for the attacking talents. I think if you wanted to buy one of the mids now, it'd probably be Pulisic, but it's still a gamble because the fitness concerns. Werner's absolutely reasonable if you've got to hold. If Giroud doesn't stay in that team, then I don't understand it. I don't understand it with the fact that they're through in Europe, they've got the Group 1, they're out the Carabao Cup. So for the next couple of weeks, unusually for Chelsea, it's weekend, play your strongest team. Olivier Giroud should be in it. Unless he decides he wants to put Werner through the middle. But in terms of if it's a straight choice between Giroud and Abraham, it's got to be Giroud. I don't care. He will get goals in games where he looks ineffective and he will make space for others. He's a handful. He's a really good hold-up forward. It just complements the rest of the team, which is all very technical, really well. And think about them wide balls coming in from James and Chilwell and the like. He's going to gobble some of them at the near post. They probably would have beat us last week if Giroud had played.
Thoughts on Leeds on the flip side, because I'm about to buy Patrick Bamford for Antonio. And I don't know why I have this, maybe it's still the negative pessimist in me being a West Ham fan. I reckon they're going to beat us on Friday night.
Yeah, so do I.
I don't know why, because we sit in deep with like Souček and Rice in front of our back five. There is no midfield for us. It's like 3 way up top and then 5 at the back, or 6, 5 plus 2, so 7. And then Leeds obviously like to stretch the game as well. So it could be a really, really stretched game where it's our defence versus their attack and vice versa. But
this is why Leeds games are thoroughly watchable every single time, basically. I think in terms of the thing is, actually, when you attack with numbers, it's actually quite a slow build-up in terms of link play of, say, Cresswell, Masuaku. Cresswell goes and supports.
Yeah, left to
Same
right.
on the right-hand side. Bowen likes to drift down to wider positions and say Fornals generally. They get the two of them on that side. Balbuena stays back. So then you kind of convert into fours in and out of the ball, defensively, that is. Obviously, in terms of the catching on the counter-attack, quite often that's direct into Antonio, isn't it? And then spin off from there, which we assume he won't be available. So, yeah, I think they probably will beat you. But to be honest, a little bit with like any Leeds game at the moment, I'm not going to be surprised. I mean, you almost can't predict them. And I don't think they played particularly bad on Saturday. Some of their passing wasn't as good as it normally is, to be fair. What an assist from Calvin Phillips, by the way. But Chelsea got into him better once they sussed the game a little bit. In terms of in the central areas, it didn't hurt in terms of the link-up play with Bamford. Didn't hurt Chelsea as much as Leeds have done to other teams. I think Harrison and Rafinha are both very good assets. Both obviously 5.4. Harrison, I presume, is fit now. Although he was the first withdrawn at the weekend, wasn't he, if I remember correctly. So you probably prefer Rafinha at this stage. And it might even be where I lean to as a replacement for Foden. Because, again, for me, I'm looking at it, 4 fixtures. Newcastle at home afterwards. Touchwood, the game goes ahead. Manchester United away, Burnley at home. And obviously West Ham at home. So I'm actually getting 3 Leeds home games. Does that matter at the moment or not? I don't have the answer for that, to be very honest with you. But it looks like a decent 4 games to them for me.
Yeah, I think the Antonio to Bamford, if nothing crazy happens this week, and even more if Moyes comes out and says that Antonio's done, is going to be the move I make this week. And that'll get me set with a playing striker.
I can't see Antonio getting rushed back, mate.
Now, I think he's done now for a little while. It'll be nursed back into the team.
Luke Ayling, by the way, return imminent. I'm going to say that every week till it happens.
Where did you leave him on your bench?
Last.
Yeah.
right decision, by the way, this week.
Carl Walker-Peters gets no minutes tonight. Luke Ayling's going to be coming into your team, mate.
Carl Walker-Peters get minutes, no problem.
He needs to get 1 minute to match Luke Ayling, so you're right.
Exactly, yeah. Okay, wouldn't I?
West Brom 1, Crystal Palace 5. How much do we read into the red card affecting this game? Firstly,
monstrous.
It's the kind of decision where you don't want that to be given as a red card. I don't want that to be given as a red card. It just felt like the most stupid red card ever. He's
a fucking idiot, though. He shouldn't have done it.
But did he kick out? It was just kind of...
Yeah, he kicked out, yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's minor. Again, we spoke about incidents like this last week. We say the Welbeck penalty and that. But no one wants that to be a red card. I think PVA got some stick, and I don't know why, actually, because there's someone aimed a boot at my nuts. I've been moving out the way and well.
I was thinking about whether or not, if as a professional footballer, I'd wear a box.
It only takes a graze.
Yeah.
And by the way, he wasn't actually pointing the finger saying, look what he did or anything like that. He kind of walked, with it. He walked away from it, actually. So, yeah, the men out there will know it's only a graze and you're in trouble, right? So, no blame on PVA. Plus the usual. I mean, there was Tottenham match of the day last night saying, we've got to be more honest for each other. We didn't mention for the last game, Paveda, dive. I know it's not what anyone wants to do, but if he goes down, he gets a penalty. 100%. The game was 2-1 at that stage. Dive, mate.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, PVA's just done enough to make everyone know that, the contact's out there and VAR takes care of the rest. So, it's over management of football. No one really wants that as a red card, but unfortunately, if you kick out, you're going to go. It was the incident yesterday, Lacazette and Højbjerg, which I can't believe no one's spoken about. But I'm definitely not complaining about today. Yes, it had a major impact on the game, red card, because the game was very even, to be honest with you. West Brom were causing Palace a few issues. Particularly every time the ball came into the box, it didn't look particularly comfortable. But then obviously lost Pereira and he withdrew Diangana, who was obviously back in the team, and West Brom had no outball.
They didn't look good at all. But Palace, on the other hand, I mean, they've scored 5 against 10-man West Brom. They scored 4 against Leeds. In between that, they've struggled.
Yeah, in between that, Wilfried's a hard in play.
Yeah, true.
Right, well, there's your answer.
What was the stat you gave our friend McTavius and Clash of the Correspondents last week? 17 out of 19 without him, they've lost?
Yeah, I think it's 15 out of 17, maybe, I saw another one.
Basically.
I saw another one knocking about that FPL tactician, our Leeds correspondent, retweeted earlier that someone had shared. It's something like Palace had scored as many goals in Zaha's last 2 games as they'd scored in the last 15 without him. Like something mad, right? It's well documented that Palace, with and without Zaha, and where he's playing now, OOP up front, he's going to continue to be a decent option. They've got a tough run of fixtures, to be honest. I don't think it's one where you'd look at, they've just played Burnley, Newcastle and West Brom and you go, oh shit, Zaha's gone off. I want to go and buy him now when it's Tottenham next and stuff. I don't think that's particularly the case.
They've got a difficult run, haven't they? Tottenham, West Ham, Liverpool, Villa, Leicester. It's not easy.
No. But what was most interesting out the game was, Zaha's points total, absolutely brilliant. Was he the highest scorer from game week? I think he might have been.
18 points, big haul.
Brilliant. He wasn't even Crystal Palace's best player, mate.
No.
Eberechi was fantastic. What a talent he is. He won't be at Palace longer than another 18 months. Brilliant player, honestly. And he's doing so much for Zaha, and it's also for PVA as well. That left-hand side, what happens is he gets the ball on the left. He likes to face the player. So in a way, it's almost more suitable for him than, I know a lot of Palace fans would like to see him play at 10, possibly even just behind Zaha, for example, where he's going to be back to goal quite a lot because of how they play. With on the left, he can see the picture of everything he wants to do. When he drives inside, a couple of things happen. He draws people because he's a really good dribbler, really good close control, loves a 1-2. As soon as he plays it off, he never admires his pass, always goes. And as soon as he steps inside, you got the Dutchman PVA. He is flying down the left, as seen by the goal that he assisted for Benteke. And it allows Zaha space centrally as well. And of course, if it does end up in the wide area with PVA, they're better off with Benteke. As much as we criticise him in front of goal, because he is a powerful problem. Tottenham, for example, at the moment, these 3 teams we've just played, sling the crosses in. We'll deal with Jesus. We'll deal with Aubameyang. We'll even deal with Abraham. I don't want to get isolated one-on-one with Benteke at the weekend, by the way. I'd be pleased if he didn't play. So, Palace, we've spoken for years about their strength being down the left-hand side. It's another game you can cross Gareth Bale off of not playing, by the way. Another team we're playing with a stronger left side than a right-hand side was also the case for Arsenal yesterday, by the way. Decent. I mean, you're not going to buy PVA now because it's too much with the fixtures that are coming. They've only had 1 clean sheet this year as well. Eze, you're also not buying. But I tell you what, he's one to watch. And if you've got Wilfried Zaha, he's absolutely fine to hold, definitely. There will be some last week who went Grealish to Zaha because of the Villa postponement. I bet that would have gone well for you.
Of course. Sheffield United 1, Leicester City 2. Another defeat for Sheffield United, and especially coming so late with the penalty for Vardy. So many Vardy owners, both in FPL and in Sky. I mean, you and I are both owners in Sky, although I captained him in Sky. So to have that late penalty and the man of the match, I mean, was something else. But Sheffield United, tick, 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 tick. Boom.
Oh, wow. Yeah, listen, there's only 2 other teams in the history of top flight football have had as bad a start as this. So, I mean, you're nearly at point of, oh my God. The positive is the period now up till the end of January 2nd that they've got Brighton in there, Burnley, Crystal Palace away, Everton at home. You don't know if you're getting the Rex or the T-Rex. Even Southampton away and United at home, they're not the worst fixtures. Tomo's coming on Clash of Correspondence Thursday. So we won't talk about Sheffield United too much now because we'll do plenty of it then. But they are basically, the reason they can still stay up at the moment is because there's 3 other shit teams at the bottom of the league. But that literally, we are at the position now where probably already the best they can finish is 17th. And that's dark. That's a dark place to be in. They're in big trouble because they can't score goals. But Burnley's goal was what? Their 3rd goal from
open play.
You wouldn't even call it open play because it's from a corner, isn't it? It was their 3rd goal this season that wasn't a penalty or something.
Oh, wow.
I mean, bad time. You ain't keeping clean sheets and you ain't scoring goals. That's a disaster. And it's all well and good saying, oh, they're losing by the odd goal every week. Well, yeah, because they're not bad defensively, but they can't keep clean sheets.
No.
And they're not scoring goals. Did you see your FPL goalkeeper? Did you see his face plant?
He's not my FPL goalkeeper anymore. I mean, he's in my team right now. He's in my team right now, but he won't be this weekend, trust me.
Okay.
I'll take a hit to get him out now.
We should have done that weeks ago.
Me and our friend Mark McGettigan, FPL General, we're starting an online support group for people that still have Ramsdale in goal 11 weeks in.
Yeah, but the
If
difference
you
between
join
you,
us for
the difference
misery
between
and
you
sorrow.
and FPL General is he's a great FPL manager and you're not.
Well, he needs to explain to me why he's got Ramsdale in his team. Then trust me,
He'll have mitigating circumstances.
it'll be a flop. It's one of those where it's the same as you with like Foden and certain players. They get stuck in because you've got other problems to deal with, and you're like, you know what, I just leave him in there. Surely Sheffield United have to get back to the team of last year. No sign of it whatsoever at the moment.
We all want to know who your Ramsdale replacement's going to be, mate.
Because it's only 4 weeks or 5 weeks until I'm going to wild card. I think
4 weeks.
I think Meslier has the best fixtures in that 4 weeks, so it probably will end up being him. I think he's got the best.
I quite like Martinez's 4. Wolves away, then Burnley, West Brom, Palace.
Possibly, maybe. But he's more expensive than Ramsdale.
Well, they're both cheaper than Ramsdale, mate.
Has Martinez dropped in value, has he?
He's 4.8, about to go to 4.7, quite possibly.
Okay, I thought he had hit 4.9.
What price is Ramsdale?
4.8.
It's 4.8.
Yeah, I had Martinez down at 4.9. So
Martinez 4.8, Ramsdale 4.8. I don't know if you should be taking a hit for it, though, mate.
Yeah, but you haven't owned Ramsdale for 11 weeks.
I get that. I told you to sell him about 6 weeks ago.
Let's talk about Spurs 2, Arsenal 0. The Kane son.
Don't want to talk about Leicester, no?
Nah. I don't own any players. Are you going to buy anyone from Leicester?
No interest at the moment. I mean, 2 nice home fixtures to come. Then it's Tottenham and Manchester United. I mean, in terms of my thinking, no interest at all. But the Christmas not bad. Got finished with Palace and Newcastle away games, which James Maddison's first assist for 363 days, which is the equivalent of exactly 52 weeks since he returned in Leicester's 4-1 win at Villa last December. They were outstanding that day. They're getting players close to fitness, and Diddy, Pereira's getting closer, made a big difference to them. I do believe that the intention, once they get these big hitters, and particularly Siyunchu back fit, who obviously had a setback last Thursday, that they will go back to a back 4. That's what I think it needs, is Siyunchu and Pereira. And then I think you'll find that they'll go to a back 4, but it's not a rush. They deserve to win, Leicester, by the way. I know it was very late, but the better side deserve to win.
Spurs 2, Arsenal 0. And as I just mentioned, it's the Kane-Son duo again that's going to get all of the headlines. It was too easy, wasn't it?
They're a good duo, aren't they? What does this mean? Tell to me, because look.
What does it mean?
Yeah, what does that mean? It's too easy. I have a few people said that to me now. It's too easy, wasn't it?
I think
fucking didn't feel easy.
Look, you're going to watch it as a fan, so you're always on the edge of your seat.
I'm sweating during the whole game. I had to go and wash my pits at half time, mate.
Yes.
I've spent the whole of half time, like, my fingers were all over the place.
If you ask me this weekend, you're playing Arsenal, I'd be all right then. I don't mind that at all. If you ask me if I'm playing Spurs this weekend, I would not want to be playing Spurs this weekend. You've shown in games against City and against Arsenal, and even that first 15, 20 minutes against us, that you can be very clinical. You take a high percentage of the chances you create, which is dangerous. Any side that has a shot conversion like that can be dangerous at any moment. Arsenal ticky-tacked it around, left to right to left to right, but it just felt like, you see certain players when they miss opportunities or things don't go their way, huffing and puffing a little bit, or slapping the ground, or arms up in the air, all that kind of stuff. Things are not right at Arsenal.
Body language of the captain. I spoke about this last week.
Completely. You just felt like they knew that they were beat before the game started in terms of body language and mindset. Whereas from Spurs' point of view, it was so controlled. It was just so controlled. Højbjerg had a fantastic game, just brilliant, bossing it around. And you just never felt as much possession as Arsenal had and as many chances they created. They can't be high XG chances at all, surely. Just never felt...
no, Arsenal's XG was about 0.6.
Shit.
I mean, Tottenham's was
somewhere
about
between 0.25
or something.
Yeah, but you were clinical. If you wanted to turn it up at any point, you could have. This was boys against men in many ways. I watched it thinking that I think my West Ham side can finish above this Arsenal side in the league this season.
That just makes me feel so warm inside.
Honestly, we defend better. We've got some shape and some games inside. I think Arsenal will struggle to top 10 for them at the moment is looking decent. They're not good enough. They're not good enough.
This is Arsenal's worst start to a season since 1981-82. Well, after 11 games anyway. It's worth saying that in that season, although it was a 42-game season, Arsenal still finished fifth. And I think Arsenal are in a position now where most Arsenal fans can look at it and go, top four, long way off, can't see it. And I agree, nobody out there would tip Arsenal for top four at the moment. You'd say that there are at least 5 teams that are better than them, if not more. However, for those who've used the first wild card, I really think they should be strongly considered. I really do. And we'll probably talk about this a bit more tomorrow when we've got a people's poll vote open at the moment, depending on when you listen to this. But it looks like we're going to do a big focus on Arsenal's podcast tomorrow, by the looks of it, and ask the question, are they in crisis? But from an FPL perspective, next 6, Burnley, Southampton, Everton, Chelsea, Brighton, West Brom. Could Aubameyang, at some point, I've said this before a couple of weeks ago, at some point, he has to go off because he's too good. I know he's not having the chances and all that. They're going to have games eventually where it's going to click. I'm absolutely convinced of that. And he'll get returns. Absolutely certain. The problem is, right now, you'd think you were mad to go and buy him because he doesn't look like he's going to have a chance. He doesn't even look like body language, like he even wants a chance, to be honest. There's things he's not showing for, etc. Perhaps this is why Arteta doesn't like him through the middle, because at least off the flank, he can come in and cut in on people and he's harder to mark, if you will, if he's got freedom of movement from there. We'll talk about Arsenal more tomorrow. Tottenham.
Yeah. I think it says a lot about Arsenal. I thought 2 of their better players. You got Saka. I always like watching Saka.
He's a great little player.
As a young little kid, he's all right. And Willian's like 300 years old, but he also seems like he's got a bit more maturity and ability. But
I know Bellerin had a nightmare for them, but I thought moving Saka to right back was bizarre.
Yeah,
because he was giving us trouble. Him and Tierney it was similar. Watching the game, it felt similar. This is the part where I got nervous. It felt similar to what Cresswell and Masuaku was doing to us in the 3-3. That side was becoming concerning. The difference was he didn't actually believe that if the ball ever came in the box that Aubameyang or Lacazette were going to head it in.
No.
And bar the one cross, which actually I think came from Bellerin on the right-hand side, they were all aerial and it was all comfortable. It was only that one low-drilled one was a little bit of an issue, and Lacazette should have gambled. He probably would have scored. I do have something to say for the XG Brigade, because the XG Brigade will be firing in all sorts of numbers at the moment of Kane and Son and what they've done over their last 3 games, which we shouldn't be surprised at the way Tottenham have played in these games, particularly after winning the first of the difficult fixtures against Man City. You go in principle, okay, I can buy into this. This works. That, of course, if you start comparing their numbers over the last 3, even 4 game weeks to what happened earlier in the season, of course, their XG numbers are regress in terms of what it was. By the way, what was Son's XG on that goal yesterday?
Probably 0.
Right. I don't know, and I also don't care. There aren't many other players who can do that. Son and Kane are the 2 best finishers in the league. Is that a fair comment?
It's a debatable comment. I mean, if we were going to have a debate about the best finishers in the league, they would be in the conversation. Now, there's so many good finishers in the league, like the likes of Aguero at his best and what have you, that you're going to start. It's like, I don't think you can definitively say that. But when Son's in on goal, like when he had the 1-on-1 against us, I think he's more likely to score than not. Where he had another 1-on-1 where I fancy him to score more than not. So yes, and Harry Kane is a very good finisher. So yeah.
Let me ask you that yesterday. If Kane had that same chance, forget the actual run, but if he's in the same position with no one closing him down and he opens his body like that, could Harry Kane have scored?
Well, yeah, he could have.
That's the point.
Yeah,
the thing is,
he scored a similar goal from outside the box against us.
It's all well and good. I spoke about this before. You say, Son's got lower XG than Sheffield United player or whatever. Like McBurney's XG has been really high the last couple of games or something. It gives a shit. Son's going to score goals. He's going to score difficult goals. So's Harry Kane. These guys are going to generally perform better against their XG than most because they are so good at finishing chances. You used the word already, Suj, clinical. And the other one, which I've used many times already this season, Ruthless. They are ruthless when the opportunity comes.
You don't need to convince me because I still own both. And the irony is, I think if you look at Twitter, as we do as people that are involved in the community, you'd think that a lot have sold. Kane, yes, he's down to less than 40% ownership, but Son is still at 58%, 57 he was yesterday. He's gone up to 58% ownership. So I think a lot in the community might have let Son go and Kane now. But in the wider game, they're still both very, very highly owned.
Let me tell you, anybody who still was thinking pre-game, I'm going to sell one of them for Salah.
Not anybody.
Or Bruno or something to make it different.
For me,
most people would have. And most people by the end of the game have remembered, shit, can't. The fact of the matter is this. Kane and Son had 2 moments in the game. And between them, they've got, 25 FPL points.
Let's talk about Liverpool 4, Wolves 0. I'm a non-Salah owner in Sky. I'm a non-Salah owner in FPL. And as soon as he put the first one in, and Connor Cody, disappointing. But you just kind of, the writing was on the wall there that they were going to just clean up.
Wolves were playing okay at 0-0. And not too badly at 1-0 either. Once it went 2-0, they fell off a bit, which, it's understandable. I think away to Liverpool without your talisman, you don't know the mental effect of what the impact is on the rest of the squad, missing their main man in Jimenez, the way he draws people into game. Obviously, he takes up positions in the box, which people know is a threat. Aerially, if the ball drops to him, you can finish. Podence, Neto, Traore, all in different factors, all good little players. Can any 2 of them amount to the sort of goals that Raul Jimenez will get? At the moment, that's doubtful. So I think attacking-wise, although I think Neto and Podence particularly, they're still really interesting prices, by the way. I don't think you go and buy it. They've still got a difficult run of fixtures to come. It's Villa, then it's Chelsea, Burnley, Tottenham, Man United. That's the next 5. The more the thing that would concern me here for Wolves, if I was a Wolves fan, I would be thinking, go back to back 5. That's what I would be thinking.
It's tried and trusted and it's worked.
Yeah, I think, and do you know what? It's difficult to judge when they've taken a slapping at Liverpool. Look, they got the same slapping at your place and they played a back 5. So that's not necessarily the answer. I just think in terms of structure, they'd be better off going back to that, getting back to what they're really good at, which is, do you know what? Letting teams play in front of them. We'll defend the penalty area box. We're really good at that. How many times, even like Trent's goal, I know it's 3-0, but how many times is a ball going behind them like that? Just things like starting positions. And I think a lot of that is because you've got 2 players defending the box rather than 3. It's quite simple. Their centre-halves don't step out even like Sheffield United's do, to be honest. They just don't. They're always there. So you're defending with less players. Semedo had a nightmare. One game he looks great. One game he looks bad. And do you know what? That can happen to people at Anfield. But I think it's not even a case where I'd look at them and go, oh, you've got solid fullbacks who are going to, play like defensive roles like Mourinho likes Ben Davies to do sometimes when he plays left back for Tottenham. Yeah. They don't even do that. So they leave themselves exposed. The recovery on the counter-attack's getting worse because Neves has never had great legs. It's always been about what he does with the ball rather than without it. Moutinho's fading. Dendoncker had a bad game as well. So suddenly taking Jimenez out here and the change of system, they feel like a very different team. I think they'd be better off going back to the back 5 personally. And for Liverpool, Trent's back, by the way.
And are you buying
just
him?
saying.
Are you buying him?
Am I buying him?
Yeah.
I wouldn't rule it out.
Yeah, I think it's very difficult with Liverpool assets to know where to go other than Salah and Mane. Obviously, definitely one to consider. Robertson as well, but with the mid-price ones, any which one. I mean, Jota owners are going to be a bit disappointed to not get any returns, but take the rough with the smooth.
So since Van Dijk got injured, they've played 11 games in all comps, which includes the Champions League games. They've conceded 6 goals and kept 6 clean sheets.
Yeah, not bad.
They've obviously had Alisson missing for some of these games. We've obviously had Trent missing for a part of these games. We've had to change centre-halves a few times. We played fucking Nat Phillips in a couple of games, and admittedly they conceded in both of them, by the way. I look at Liverpool's next 5, and I mean this honestly. I wouldn't be surprised if they kept 4 or 5 clean sheets in the next 5 games.
Yeah.
So yeah, am I interested in buying Trent back when all my decisions are based on immediate at the moment? Yeah, I'm very interested. I
I
wouldn't rule it
don't.
out. You know me, it's like dun, 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 dun,
Yeah, the
dun,
challenge is
dun,
getting the
dun.
money to upgrade someone somewhere to him. I've now got obviously 5 playing defenders. Robertson, James, and Cancelo, I think, will do the job. And the Cancelo and Reece James being 2 million cheaper,
Course.
that's such a big chunk of money. So I don't see myself going back for Trent. Robbo will be fine and cover me off. I want to use the money elsewhere.
I think if I didn't have the wild card in 4 game weeks to use, and I was buying one now, I'd probably buy Reece James. That's the honest truth, rather than Trent. I get that completely. For me, looking at the immediate, yeah, I don't know. There's a chance to go and do it and then reassess when a wild card, I think.
Yeah. That's a rundown of all of the 10 fixtures, 8 fixtures from the weekend. I'm jumping the gun there. Forgot, of course, Villa, Newcastle didn't play. Southampton, Brighton tonight. Excited for that as well. Shall we run down some of the questions that we've had on Twitter to wrap up the show, James?
Why not? Why are you looking at them? Quick yes or no. Is Mo Salah the best game week 12 captaincy in your opinion?
Yes.
Yes, I agree with that.
Can't afford him.
I'm not sure I can, but I'm still not sure if I'm going there. It's complicated, but just like my whole FPL season, actually.
The first question is coming in from William Kai Manu, and I think it is worth addressing this first because a few people will be interested. At Suj James, how was it being back in the stadium? And at Planet FPL Pod James, if you could pick one game in the next couple of weeks as your first game back to go and watch Spurs, which would it be? Which would be the game that you'd want to get tickets for?
The one fucking yesterday, you prat.
In the coming weeks.
No, I'll just keep applying for league games. It won't be Antwerp on Thursday. I haven't applied, but I'll just keep applying for the league games. So I hope it's the next one. I hope it's Leicester.
It's interesting. I think that the experience was great, right? Being back in the stadium, but it wasn't anywhere near. It wasn't as crazy as I thought it would be. Put it that way. So obviously, with the fact that there's fewer fans, the whole experience was just half an experience. Normally, before the game, there's a band outside. You've got the food kiosks. There's almost an atmosphere, disco party atmosphere before the game. People having a few drinks. None of that was open or available at all. So it was very quiet outside the ground, as you'd expect. You don't know what it's like with just 2,000 people. It was easy to get in and out, which was definitely an advantage. Inside the stadium as well, most of the concession stuff was not open. So only half the food was available that maybe normally is available. No alcohol. They weren't serving beers or anything like that. But getting through, and
I'm pretty sure they were at Tottenham.
No, there's no booze available. They were. Everyone was well behaved, civilized, kept their space, all of that kind of stuff.
Was that a problem? I think we'll talk about this more in Tottenham tomorrow.
You could
was
fit,
that a problem?
no, you could fit 10,000 people.
Because the atmosphere, obviously, I watched every game on the TV over the weekend. The atmosphere at Chelsea, at Tottenham, and at Liverpool all sounded much better than it did at your place. And I'm not even saying that to dig you.
The atmosphere was funny for a number. What I noticed was that the range, the types of people that were at the game was so varied. So you think you're going to get 2,000 people into the ground, right? So you're going to have an atmosphere of 2,000 people singing, but you're not going to get 2,000 of the singing fans in. So there was a lot of kids. I think they purposely, for being at a test event, probably thought, you know what, let's get some kids in because it's easier to manage than 2,000 rowdy 25-year-olds or whatever. So, and there was a lot of older people as well. So you had the real spread of randomness in terms of the crowd. So, and a lot of these people aren't the singing types, right? You're never going to get 60,000 at stadium that all sing. Some do, some don't. So the atmosphere was quite funny. There was the talk about the booing before with the kneeling and all of that. I didn't notice any of that, I have to be honest with you. I mean, you can find the videos if you want, but it's weird because you sing Bubbles all the way while the players are lining up and the ref blows his whistle and the players drop to their knee and you're like, oh shit, yeah, you have to check. You don't, with a minute silence, you expect to do a minute silence. With this, it was, oh yeah, I forgot they were actually going to do that. So you get a little bit of chatting and then everyone's like, oh, fine. And it was fairly quiet. There was a handful of people that shouted stuff like Irons and come on West Ham, but there was no concerted booing from the fans that I could conceivably hear or thought. And then it was all right, but I think it is hard to drum up an atmosphere with just 2,000 fans. It is. It isn't.
It looked like
isn't
the other three clubs did it, mate.
Well, you're watching on TV though, so you don't know what they're piping in and stuff. There was moments definitely in the first half where it did feel like an atmosphere, especially when we scored and what have you.
To be honest with you, it felt striking watching the Chelsea game afterwards, straight after yours, that the atmosphere was so much better at Chelsea, honestly.
Yeah, but you can't tell without being there, right?
No, but my volume on the TV was at the same level.
Yeah, but what you see on TV or versus what's in the reality. Don't get me wrong, the second half was quiet. I think the first half, because we had the better of the game, was much better. But the second half was quiet because you could visibly see we dropped deeper and what have you. The whole experience, though, without getting sucked into the game, was smooth. I think that our stadium, based on the way that 2,000 were laid out, could comfortably accommodate 10 to 15 with all of the same restrictions and social distancing and ticketing, etc.
Yeah,
and function.
Easy.
10 to 15,000. I think
more it's than just 15, about having that amount of people in the area. And what do you do transport-wise afterwards? That's the issue. It's nothing to do within stadiums. It's all about outside, afterwards, and before.
More than 15, I can understand being a bit more of a challenge. No doubt about it. But I think up to 10 to 15 would be doable.
The majority, if you take 15,000 at yours, a lot of people who've been to your place will know this, and a lot won't, right? But basically, if 15,000 go to your ground, mate, 14,000 are walking straight back to Stratford train station. Is that fair?
Or the shopping centre car park.
Right.
I would have said 80%. So, yeah, give or take.
Right. So, do you want that many people conversion at the same time? That's the issue. It's not the amount of people in the ground.
So
the only way you do that is you stagger people in. That's what Tottenham wanted to do. And I don't know if they implemented it for just 2,000 or not, was stagger like your arrival and your departure time. So I think because Tottenham were asking certain people to stay behind for like half hour and so.
You can walk all the way around, obviously similar to whereas you can block off certain paths of exit and entry for people. So create one-way systems if you really wanted to accommodate 10 to 15. I think is comfortable. More than that, you're asking for trouble, basically. But you know what? It was just good to be back at football, and the whole atmosphere of everything was fantastic. So appreciative to be part of it, and I think that as many fans are going to get to experience in the coming months.
Good. So now the real question that everybody wants to know: how far up in the circles are you? Who got you the ticket? Was it David Gold? Was it Sullivan? Was it Baroness Brady?
Listen, James, when you're a co-host on an award-winning podcast, because we're going to find out tomorrow that we are an award-winning podcast.
Congratulations, Brandon and Josh.
People want to talk to you. I am now featured in the Sunday Times. I was on Norwegian and French national TV, and all of it counts for nothing because I still can't shake the disappointment of losing. And I suppose I've got to take it as a positive because this time last year, obviously we won, but the team was in much worse shape against United, whereas this season the team is in much better shape. But obviously we ended up losing the game. Let's go into some other Twitter questions that we've got here, James. Shall we?
Yeah.
We'll rattle up a couple more and then call it a day. Jamin Kassam, Jay, hope you're well, mate. Have we now got to a point where we just shuffle in and out the premium midfielders depending on the fixture and give them the armband? Now, I've got Kevin De Bruyne. I don't see how I can do a hokey-cokey with him. Bruno Fernandes. I don't see how I can do a hokey-cokey with him. And Heung-min Son. I don't know how I can do a hokey-cokey with him. And Harry Kane. So you're asking me to get Salah or one of the other premiums we've mentioned. I have to sell one of these four. I don't want to sell any of these four. So I'm of the opposite mindset where I've got the 4 or 5 that I want for. And then I'll rotate between them. And the one that I've had to sacrifice is Salah for Liverpool, which could end up hurting me. But I don't know.
If I buy Salah this week, you then have a big consciousness for game week 13 to think, well, Bruno or KDB's better here. If I buy Salah, he's staying in because I know I'd want him in game week 14 and game week 15, for example. So, but yes, look, if you're in a position where you like 9 players of your team, yes, there absolutely is a viable strategy, particularly as long as you're leaving enough money to make sure you can always get the Salah to jump. You know the element of risk in it. The thing is, this weekend gone, everybody returned, right? All of them. If you captained De Bruyne, Sterling, Salah, Kane, Son, whichever one of them you feel like you won the weekend. It's actually only probably people who've been on Bruno who feel like they've lost. But then even the Bruno owners be looking at it going, he's put Rashford through one-on-one. He's created all them chances in the second half. I think it's the most chances created by a substitute in a Premier League game or something. Like mad.
Yeah.
So
ironically, James, I would say if Rashford hadn't been on the pitch, I don't think he'd have created as many chances because Martial wasn't getting in behind in the way that Rashford did.
How often does Bruno not have Rashford on the pitch?
No, rarely.
Exactly.
Rarely.
So, look, Bruno, the consistency at the value as well, I think for those who bought at 10.5, 10.6, that's always part of the equation here, isn't it? What are you selling at? It's like what I said right at the start about Calvert-Lewin. Do the people who bought him at 7 million really want to sell him when he's the top goal scorer in the league? Why would you particularly want to sell him unless you're doing that? You're shoving that 1.5 million to Bamford that's going to allow you to go De Bruyne to Salah, for example, and stick the armband on him. I get it. And of course, it's the FOMO. It's always the FOMO. This week, it's clear and obvious. Mo Salah is the best choice. Can Harry Kane or Heung-min Son match him? Can Kevin De Bruyne go off at Old Trafford? Yeah. Can Bruno go off against Man City? Bruno can go off against anybody. Same with De Bruyne, right? So I think you're almost in a position where saying, right, what's the fallback option? So if I don't go to Salah this week, all right, looks like I'm going to captain Harry Kane away to Crystal Palace. Is that the worst thing in the world?
I'm going to captain Harry Kane this week.
Kane as well. The other thing with Kane is, and Son's got much better at this over the last 12 to 18 months or so, Kane scores as many goals away from home as he does at home. It's well known. But most people psychologically will see the little A and it puts them off.
So answer this question then, James, from Danny Brothers. Which one of Harry Kane's 250 goals has been your favourite?
Oh, the goal against Arsenal.
This weekend? The most recent one.
You're clearly meant to say which one of the 11. No, the mask goal. The mask goal in 2016, in off the post. Welding.
Who's the Boselli asks a question. Who's the best sub 4.5 million defender? What's the deal with Balbuena? Is he a solid option? I can answer the bit about Balbuena and you can decide who you think is the best 4.5, James. He's a solid option in the fact that he's nailed in the team. What I've noticed now is we really do like to knock it around at the back and play out, and he's much better on the ball than Diop. So that's why Balbuena's in the team. He won't get you any attacking returns. He won't go up massively for corners and score any goals. But if you want to bank on West Ham clean sheets and you need someone cheap, then he'll be playing. I just don't know if that's the road I want to go down. Charlie Taylor's dropped to 4.4. I'd almost rather Charlie Taylor than Balbuena. Thoughts, James?
Yeah. I mean, I kind of lean in to think that somebody's asking that question at the moment because, again, they're looking to shove the funds.
Find the funds to go and get.
Exactly. So it's probably a case where maybe there's not a strong bench, possibly, and you need it to be a playing one. I would favour the Leeds boys at that price. At 4.5 or below. Dallas or Ayling. Dallas obviously is playing midfield at the moment, so it's a little bit more interesting. Would I be slightly concerned at how Bielsa went off when Dallas slips right in front of him towards the end of the game? And interestingly, Alioski is a player we never speak of. I think he's still 4. I mean, at the moment, he's running in the team, isn't he? I just feel like that could change any week. Well, that's probably quite dependent, ironically, on the fitness, I think, of Pablo Hernandez. Is probably what has the biggest influence on that. And he's kind of week to week at the moment, whether he's in or out. I think Alioski would still have favouritism. Sorry, Dallas would still have favouritism over Alioski if Hernandez comes back in and Dallas then went to left back, which probably by default means, just on the safe side, the best choice right now is probably Luke Ayling.
And there we go. That's a quick rundown of all of the 8 games that we've had so far, as well as a little bit of Q&A there, James. Do you want to let everybody know what we have left for the rest of this week?
Yeah, I shall. Before we get to any of ours, just a note that I'm guesting on the FPL surgery tonight as well. I guess they'll go out overnight or early tomorrow as well to join into that. Surgery boys are friends of the show. Really good lads. Tomorrow, People's Poll looks like it's going to be all about Arsenal. not necessarily from an FPL perspective. In fact, let's be honest, it's not going to be from an FPL perspective. Are they in crisis? We'll answer that question. Wednesday will be Sky. Thursday's Clash of Correspondence, FPL Gaffer, FPL Blade, Southampton, Sheffield United. I'll be streaming on YouTube at 9 a.m. on Friday and at 5:30 p.m. on Friday, subject to Leeds and West Ham staying well and healthy this week. 5 more pods on Patreon. Today we got a Q&A. Tomorrow, Tottenham, bit more detail on Suj's day at West Ham, North London derby win. Wednesday, we have a patrons poll. Thursday will be a quiz on Manchester derbies. Friday will be our game week 12 preview.
Indeed, there we go.
So now you can do the patron sell.
Yeah, if you want some of those extra podcasts, patreon.com/Planet FPL. I'm sure you've heard it all before. Most importantly, at the moment, stay safe wherever you are. Such good news that we've got a vaccine coming out and what have you. Maybe things will start in the coming months, return back to normality. But keep playing FPL safely wherever you are. Ciao for now.
Thanks, everyone. Be nice to each other. Cue music, please, Mancha.